All right, so we're going to continue here. I was working on the distant hills, and we're using our violet. It's like an it's called ultramarine violet. Um, and I started to say at the end of the last video that it's the shapes of the shadows that create the form. It's not lines. It's shadows and form. Shadows create form. And they also tell us where our light's at, right? We know with this building like this that our light is coming from this direction. On this side of the hills, they're shadowing. So we use our shading, our shadows, to create the form that we want to render. And we use color in a way that right now, if I add yellow ochre to my violet, it grays it down and it sets it back, helps it recede into the background where we want it. All right, as the colors, as this is moving away further to the right, it becomes a little bit bluer. Oh, what a beautiful day. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy to have tolerable weather. And we don't have smoke in our skies. We've got a lot of that California smoke here. I cannot imagine living there with all that. We are very blessed here. All right, so okay, what a lovely mess we have. I'm gonna wipe out my brush and I'm gonna move into some of the warmer tones into these hills. And to do that, I'm going to take my yellow ochre. Maybe a little bit of this burnt sienna. Might be too much. Let's see what that does. Let's see, the yellow ochre is pretty strong. I would like them a little... I'm going to bring the burnt carmine in. I think that might work a little better. Yes. I'm having a little bit of trouble controlling my brush today. We haven't painted in a while. We're getting there. Can't let it get to us. It's just paint on fabric. That's what I always say. We can't get too caught up or too upset or too worried That's all it is, paint on fabric. Yep, looks like a mess. You're right. Sure does. But you have to be willing to make a mess to be able to pull it together in the end. Right now we're working on lights and darks and temperature changes, cools and warms, to try to give us the light, right, that's happening in these areas. And painting around these critters keeps it always interesting too. And keeping paint off myself, I'm going to retire that paper towel and get a different one. Okay, now let's regroup here a bit. Some of the stuff I just really want a little rosier is a little warmer. And to make it rosier, all I'm picking up is my burnt carmine. It has a nice rose tone to it when you add white. I got too much paint on that. I'm lowering this down so I don't have to reach so far. Darks, halftones to lights. Not everybody paints this way. It doesn't matter how a person paints. What's important, right, is that you're painting. And everybody develops their own style and their own way of painting, coming about it. But some of the principles remain the same, especially in oil painting. One is you don't paint acrylics over oils ever. It'll just cause them to blister over time. In fact, acrylics, the old acrylics particularly, I have some old acrylic paintings from like when I was 13 that now the paint has just blistered off like house paint. And acrylic paint is like house paint. And it's kind of that nature of paint, but where you can clean it up with water But after a time, it does, whew, it's getting warm out here now. After a time, it does break down. So you can, like this canvas, our canvases we use are primed with acrylics these days. They used to be primed with oils, an oil painting on an oil prime. If we didn't prime the canvas, it would be just cloth, and it would just, the oil would just make big oil splotches on it. So we put, we can put acrylic gesso on our canvases to prime them so that the oil paint doesn't seep through. Then we can also then use our oil paint. The other thing is that there's a way to, I used to tone my canvas. That's nice. I used to tone my canvases, the whole thing with a tone, which is nice. It kind of gives a common thread through the whole painting, but it's, that paint is broken down with turpentine or OMS, odorless mineral spirits. And I like the effect, but I have become super sensitive to turpentine and mineral spirits, and I don't use it at all anymore, not even for cleanup. And one of these days I'll have my husband help me do a video that I can show you how I clean up my paints. Super easy without using any turpentine. I carry no turpentine with me. I just keep my arsenal really simple, and I try to it as healthy as I can. Oil paints, especially the cadmiums, here as a little warning, we usually don't give them to kids under like 12 to paint with, because they tend to get it on them and in their mouths. And oil paint, especially the cadmium, like cadmium orange, cadmium yellows, cadmium reds, they're kind of they are heavy metal. They're made from organic materials. But you know what? So is our granite. Our granite, the we use on countertops these days, especially the high color ones like the blues, yellows. They can be high in metals. So you know, we just need to be aware, and we need to be careful, and we. That's why it's better to start like children and like watercolors, of course, or acrylics, because it just, yeah, they can be toxic, and you don't want to be putting your brush in your mouth. You do not want to be wiping your brushes on your clothes, which I used to do. I had a cool pair of painting jeans, right? And but our skin is a sponge, and so anything we put on our skin is so easily absorbed. This is at Gray Violet by Holbein, which I tend to like for these skies. It's a little bit of I'd say a feeble color. It means it takes a lot of paint. Skies are either flat, smooth, or have motion into them. This sky is kind of hazy. If I wanted to, I could give it more motion. I could put clouds in it. But pretty much right now, I'm going to go straight across. I might lay it in, going different angles. But, and it's darker over here. And I come right up next to this wet paint. like, okay, so what do you do now, right? Okay, well, what you do now is you just get as far as you can, and then I am going to move to the trees and get those leaves in so that I can finish the sky. I'm going to take a sable fan brush, and I'm just going to smooth out these brush strokes. Whoopsie. Got some other color in there. It's alright. Just to kind of smooth this out. Give it kind of that hazy, and also kind of transitions the background. Alright. So, no choice but to come in and do the sky color is also going to be reflected in the water. But now I need a round brush. A round bristle brush. Alright, got my round brush, and I'm going to come into the sap green, and where there's the darker places, I'm just going to lay the sap green over that burnt carmine, and the two together will make some darker leaf patterns. And we need the darker leaf patterns where the light doesn't hit the leaves. If I get into my mountain colors, I'm going to wipe it off my brush and come back in here, put my leaves in. Can't be afraid to paint wet on wet. That's what we're doing here, and this is how you would hopefully get out and paint on location. Of course, you have to paint a lot quicker than this. All right, you can also add some blues up into some of these greens, and it helps bring some atmosphere in, right? We don't have to stick with leaves are green. And it's okay to come in over some of that other. I added another color to my palette, which is cadmium yellow. It's a really pretty bright yellow. And so with that, I can come in here and warm up. So do you see the difference between the cools? We have darks, we have cools, and then we have these really pretty warm greens that we can bring up with adding yellow. I need to come back though and build up some of these other greens over in here. I got ahead of myself. So I'm just going to quickly lay in this leaf pattern, this branch. And cottonwood leaves are fun. They chatter. They're very leathery. They're thick and they're leathery and they're heart-shaped. And they chatter. When they blow in the wind, they rustle against each other, and it's a chattering sound that they make. And then as they dry out for fall, it's even a more crisp crisp sort of chatter. I like cottonwoods. I don't like it that the branches fall. They're called self-pruning. I've had lots of experience with self-pruning cottonwood trees. Not my favorite aspect of them. And but they are a great tree, and they offer a lot of shade. These horses are really benefiting out here in this range, this prairie, from these trees. So I'm going to come back to my sap green with my yellow. Another color I can make is taking cerulean blue with this yellow, and that makes a really nice color too. And we'll do some of that. Let me get some more yellow in here. You see, I don't worry about leaf shapes or what I'm really after is getting the story. I'm suggesting what's happening here, and I'm going to suggest actually some more leaves out in here. And I'm going to put a little leaf passage through here too. All right. Let's see what happens when we take cerulean blue with this yellow. What do we get? Another color. Okay. Got a warmness to it. Got a death grip on this brush. Been dropping too many of them today. I gotta loosen that up. All right. We're gonna come back with this yellow over some of these areas. Building, building, building. That's what we're doing. We're building. Gonna need more sap green. Don't necessarily want to fill it all in, but I will come back with what's called sky holes, which is bringing the sky in. A little white now. Oops, too much white. But there'll be some. concentrating here. It's harder to talk and paint sometimes, so concentrating. We're getting about at 25 minutes here. So basically what happens at this point, which is going to be a little messy, is the sky holes. We come back in with our sky paint and we start patching our holes. Okay? It's that simple. And artists call these sky holes, where you come in and you patch in the sky. To paint the sky underneath completely would diminish our tree colors. We'd have to deal with the colors, and I don't know, some people do it. This gets really light off to the right. But, you know, it's like put the colors where they live. It's okay if it's easier for you to paint the sky all one color. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't do it. And with oil paint, we build up in layers, right? So, at this point, that's what I'm doing. I'm dabbing in the sky holes. And when I pick up that green, I have to wipe it out. It does take a lot of paint, no doubt. And I've got to go whiter here because the sky is getting a lot whiter over in here. Green, see what happens? Gotta wipe it out. I know this drives some of my students crazy. It's like, why would you do that? It's like, well, it's just the proper way to do it. That's the way it's done. And we always can come in with oil paint and touch up the trees, and go back and touch up the sky. But we can come in here and dabble in our sky. So my machine doesn't shut me off here without me telling it to. I'm going to be wrapping this up, and I will get back to you probably tomorrow, next day. Our weather holds, we'll still be on this porch. Okay, so back there is actually mountains, so I'm going to come back in here and change those sky hole colors because these are mountains. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing exactly. Mountain. Okay. And some of these colors will be reflected down in here. And so I'm just kind of wiping out my brush. Well, I sort of just loaded it some more. But I'm going to scrumble some of these colors down in here. All right. Catch you later. Signing off.